If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The More Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.
Richard Freeman, one of Britain's few professional cryptozoologists, presents Dragons More Than a Myth. David Icke, one of the world's most controversial speakers, presents his latest book, Human Race Get Off Your Knees, and the DVD set, The Lion Sleeps No More, an 8-hour presentation at London's Brixton Academy. All these and other titles are available at themoreshow.co.uk/shop.
Welcome back. I'm joined by David Icke via video link. Now, David is a full-time investigator into what is controlling the world. He believes that reality is an illusion that exists only in our brain and which is generated and manipulated to imprison us in this false reality. David Icke, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin.
What was your goal 20 years ago?
Well, 21 years ago, when it first happened, my goal was to understand the heck what was happening in my life. Because suddenly the Green Party spokesman and television presenter's life was over. And it was a case of trying to, first of all, understand what was happening to me. And that took a while. But once I started to understand what it was all about, which is for some reason I was being given pieces in a puzzle that was showing me what was actually happening in the world compared with what we're told is happening from cradle to grave through the media and education, all these things. My goal from that point on, right to now, more passionately than ever now, is to know as much as I can and to communicate that, because when you've got people who are kept in mental, emotional, and to an extent physical slavery, certainly financial slavery, by a system that they don't even know is doing it, then it's very important that this information is circulated to as many people as possible.
What was the major event in your life when your journey started? What influence did the famous psychic Betty Shine have on you?
Well, it was a very short influence, but it was a very, very important one, because that was the moment I knew something was happening to me that I hadn't realized before. What had happened is during 1989, I had been working for the BBC, I'd been working for the Green Party, and we had probably the biggest election success, you can call it that we ever had in the European elections of 1989. And I was in the media because of that and all the rest of it. But what was going on in the background was something very strange, because throughout 89, and it got more and more powerful as the year unfolded, I got the feeling that if I was in a room alone, I wasn't alone. There was a presence there. And a lot of synchronistic things happened, which led me to a newsagent, not 5 minutes from where I'm talking to you now from. My son, Gareth, who's a big lad now, a little boy then, he was looking at some steam train books. We both like steam trains. And I said to him, "Come on, Gaz, we'll go and we'll get some lunch." And as I turned to leave the shop, my feet stuck to the ground, like magnets were pulling them down, which of course, the first thing at the time it happened to me, it was very, very strange. And I thought, what's going on? And then not a voice, but a very powerful thought form went through my mind out of nowhere, which said, "Go and look at the books on the far side." So now I'm completely bewildered, what's happening? But I went with it, not least because my feet would go in that direction. They wouldn't go in that direction. Sounds incredible, but it's true. And so I went along to where all the books were in this newsagent shop. They were all Mills and Boon. Did they still have Mills and Boon? I don't know, but they did a lot then, romantic novels and stuff. But in the middle of them was a woman's face on a book. And it caught my eye, and I picked it up. It was a book called Mind to Mind, Betty Shine, and I turned over and I read the word psychic, and my immediate reaction was, I wonder if she'd pick up what is going on, what this presence is I'm feeling. So I wrote to her, read the book in 24 hours, wrote to her, went to see her the first time, we had a chat about other dimensions and all this stuff, no problem, made sense to me. Went the next time, and I'm lying on this like bench, because what I'd said to her is not, I've got a presence around me, can you pick it up? I never mentioned that, obviously. I said, I've got rheumatoid arthritis, maybe your hands-on healing could help. But in the middle of this this next one, suddenly she reels her head back when she's working on my knee, hands-on healing, and said, my God, I'm going to have to close my eyes for this one, this is powerful. And suddenly she starts saying that she's seen this, seen this figure in her mind that was giving her information for me. And I'm a TV presenter, I'm a national spokesman for the Green Party, and suddenly I'm being told in March 1990 that I'm going to go out on a world stage and reveal great secrets, that there was a massive transformation of human awareness coming in effect, and that I was going to communicate this. And one of the lines was, one man cannot change the world, but one man can communicate the message that can change the world, and that I would write 5 books in 3 years on these subjects. And my reaction to that is, I don't know anything about these subjects. 5 books? You imagine trying to get 5 books in 3 years published, never mind writing. But it happened to the month, and virtually everything, 99.9% of what happened then has happened or is happening. And so Betty was the person that basically gave me that initial understanding that my life was going to change. But then I went, of course, on my own journey.
So how is the system we're living in affecting us right now?
If you are a few, and we're talking about a network of interbreeding families going back to the ancient world, that have created, in effect, a secret society version of a transnational corporation, where they have a headquarters, which is in Europe, places like London, Paris, Rome. And in each country, they have a network of secret societies and families which act like, take McDonald's. McDonald's has a headquarters which dictates the corporate global agenda. I've been all over the world. You go into in South Africa or Eastern Europe, America, anywhere, and you see a McDonald's, you see the same McDonald's. And this secret society network is the same. The job of each subsidiary network in each country is to control that country's finance, media ownership level, governments, any party that has a chance of forming a government, etc. And its job is to introduce in that country what the central headquarters, center of the spider web dictates. And that's why things happen in the same different countries at the same time, often justified by the same excuses. And the foundation of this, of course, is to keep people in ignorance of that it actually exists, that everything's random, and also to keep people as much as possible in a suppressed state of consciousness, so that they're operating on a tiny, tiny fraction of their true mental potential. Because if there's a few and you want to control the many, you don't want the many to be aware, open-minded, sharp thinking, sharp in the way that they see things and read between the lines. You don't want that. You basically want a herd of sheep. And that's the goal, to turn humanity, and to a large extent, up to this point they've succeeded, is to turn infinite awareness having an experience, which is what humans are, by disconnecting us from the influence of that infinite awareness. So basically we're operating on a tiny, tiny fraction of our ability to perceive and understand. And the education system is structured all over the world to keep young people in a state of programmed sense of limitation of self in the world, to see the world as everything apart from everything else and not connected as it is. And the media, the mainstream media, is taking that same point of observing the world and imposing that 24/7 now, over and over again. And as it's been rightly said, if you're told at a very, very young age, all the way through your life, that 2 and 2 equals 5, and the media is telling you 2 equals 5, all your peers are telling you 2 equals 5 because they've been through the same program, the teachers are telling you 2 equals 5, etc. The scientists are doing the same. There's a bloody good chance that you'll go through your life thinking 2 and 2 equals 5, but it still goes on equaling 4. And that's what more and more people are beginning to understand around the world now. They've been sold a lie and they're waking up to it.
So do you think there's a sort of golden age of consciousness rising right now, with people becoming more aware of your work?
It's extraordinary, Kevin. You know, first of all, 21, 20, 19, 18 years ago, I was still being mass ridiculed, where I couldn't go in a pub, I couldn't walk down the street, I had to stop my car at the lights, next car, people would be laughing at me. But you know, if what you say has validity and you keep saying it, people can't unhear it. And eventually, if it has validity, it will be shown to be so. And what's happening, or happened over the last few years, is that what I've been saying in my book since the early 90s is now happening on the television news. It's happening in the newspapers, it's happening in our everyday lives and our everyday experience. And so enormous numbers of people now, even for me, shocking numbers of people around the world are looking at my books, are coming to my events, are going, you know, for free to my website, where there's an absolute explosion of free information there about all this. And this is part of something I was told about, funnily enough, when I first saw that psychic, Betty Shine, in 1990. Part of what I was told then was that this awakening was going to take place, that humanity was going to wake up from its amnesia, its coma, its sleep-like state, and it was going to start to see what it hadn't seen before. There was no evidence in 1990, 91, 92, but now, unbelievable. All over the world it's happening. I'm now being invited into parts of the world I've never been invited to before, Eastern Europe and stuff like that, because it's not that the whole world is waking up. Clearly still the vast numbers of people are still seeing life as they did before, although they're questioning it more because of what's happening. But the numbers and the speed in which the curve is rising of people that are almost spontaneously looking at themselves, their own power, their own lives, reality, and world events in a completely different light is absolutely yes. And the next few years are going to be a period where the immovable object that thinks it is, but isn't, the control system, is coming face to face with the irresistible force which really is, and that's the human awakening to what's really happening and the true power and potential of human consciousness. And we're in for some challenging times as they look each other in the eye, but the outcome will be for our children and grandchildren and young people today, they're going to live in a world that they would think was utopia and impossible from the point of observation as we sit here and talk today. But it's coming, but there's a lot of challenges in the way, because this control system is going to throw the kitchen sink and then some to try to keep us under control. And what we're seeing in the Middle East and other countries and all this stuff now, it's all part of this bubbling change that's taking place.
Okay, stay with us as we'll have more from David after the break.
Richard Freeman, one of Britain's few professional cryptozoologists, presents Dragons More Than a Myth. David Icke, one of the world's most controversial speakers, presents his latest book, Human Race Get Off Your Knees, and the DVD set, The Lion Sleeps No More, an 8-hour presentation at London's Brixton Academy. All these and other titles are available at themoreshow.co.uk/shop.
Visit themoreshow.co.uk/shop to purchase products and services from your favourite past guests. If you're new to this site, you can also catch up on the previous television and radio shows through YouTube and the More Show website.
Welcome back. I'm still joined here currently with David Icke via video link. So David, with the mess that's happening in the world right now, what's your view on the future of the financial system?
Well, let's look at the financial system, because highly paid economics correspondents and economists in the City of London and all these people, they don't tell you, because most of them don't know, how the system works and what money is. People don't ask that money. They just take that question about money. They take it for granted. So let's ask the question, what is money? Well, where does money come from? And people go, well, the government, correct? No. What we call money has never existed and will never exist. It's a figment of the imagination called credit. How money is created is by overwhelmingly private banks issuing credit, money that doesn't exist, to people, and then charging them interest on it. So when you go to a bank and you want to borrow say £50,000, what does the bank do? Does it print any money? No. Does it move any precious metal anywhere? No. It types into your account £50,000, because banks are allowed, legally but outrageously, to lend at least 10 times, and actually far more than that in truth, 10 times that they have on deposit. So every time you put £1 in a bank, you're giving the bank the right to lend 9 or 10 it doesn't have, called credit. It's called fractional reserve lending. So from the moment you borrow this money, and we're talking about a company, an individual, or a country, you borrow this money from the bank that doesn't exist, they just type it into your account, you're now paying them back what they've lent you. Well, they've lent you nothing, plus interest, and if you don't pay them back that according to contract, they can come and get wealth from you that does exist. Your house, your home, your land, your business. And this is how, over a period of centuries, the banking system has taken control of the real wealth of the world. And then you go to the next level and you realize that the banking system, we see different banks, but the system itself is owned by the same few families that control the transnational corporations and the biotech cartel and the oil cartel and the pharmaceutical cartel. You start to realize that the banking system is just a scam to keep the mass of people in a financial, therefore a choice prison, and to hijack the wealth of the world. And what they want to do now, because this crash in 2008 was absolutely manufactured by the core, is they want to create a massive financial problem. They have, but they've got more to come, so that they can offer their solution to it. Because when something's working, you try getting people to change it. You want things not to work so that you can then offer the solution, the change. And what they want, and have been working towards for centuries, is a world central bank that would dictate to all finance, all global finance in every country. And when they had the crash of 2008, what were the financial institutions, etc., saying? We need a world central bank. And you're going to see that more and more talked about as they crash the economy even more. Because connected into that is the manipulation of the Middle East, which has many, many reasons, but one of them is to make the oil price soar beyond anybody's previous understanding of how high it could go. And what will that do? It will crash the world economy, and that's what they want.
So do you see this current financial system still in place 10 years from now?
No. It's going to collapse. One of two things are going to happen. Either they are going to get their world central bank, and then humanity in every part of the world will live under the financial tyranny of a few people sitting around a table dictating world finance. And if people think that's fantastic, we already have that in Europe. It's the European Central Bank is doing that and making decisions that affect the whole of Europe. It's just moving it to another level. Either that will happen, we will be in an even greater financial tyranny than we are now, or people, and this is what's going to happen, people are going to wake up to this, and this system's going to come down. And there's going to be some very, very challenging years as we move from a collapsed financial system, the one we've become aware of and the one we've lived with, before something different kind of takes its place. It's a very challenging time, but a very good one, because you know, if you're in jail and the prison collapses, then it can be very challenging as it collapses. But the outcome is what? You're not in jail anymore. And that's basically the theme of what's happening.
So very briefly, David, what is the answer? Is it bartering?
Well, there will be a lot of that. The idea that they want, I've been writing about this for nearly 20 years, they want people microchipped. And that microchip will carry your financial details. It will take the place of the credit card, if you like. And the idea of that is to remove all cash that you can hold in your hand, and replace it with a single electronic world currency. And by course, the great financial crash, oh look, the only way of sorting this out, we need a one world electronic currency, is to create this situation. You go into a shop or a store or whatever, and you hand over electronic money, eventually through the microchip if we let them do it. And they say, oh, I'm sorry, the computer won't accept your money. Well, at the moment, although cash is going out of circulation very fast around the world, at the moment you could still say, oh, well, I better pay cash then. What happens when there's no cash and that computer system says no to your electronic money? You have no way of purchasing other than barter, and that's what it's about, control.
So this links into your work on a one world bank, but what about a one world army? Where is this leading to with the current situation? Are we going for another war?
Well, I've been writing about this for years too. They want a third world war, and this is not with hindsight, since Libya and Egypt and Bahrain. This is something I've been writing about for years. They want a third world war, and they want to trigger that by a conflict in the Middle East, which eventually draws in China and Russia. And of course, I said eventually draws in Europe and America. Europe and America are already involved. And see, it's a simple equation, Kev. If you want to control the mass of the people, and there's only a few of you, you have to incessantly centralize decision making. Because the more diversity of decision making you have within the wider community, the less control any few at the center can have. They can't keep control of it. So you draw everything to the center, and then what they want is decisions made affecting everybody on a global level, basically around a few tables. So they want a world central bank dictating global finance. They want a world government dictating politically to all countries. They want a world army to impose the will of the world government on any country that won't have it. And they want a world single currency. Now, I wrote in a book, in 1994 called And the Truth Shall Set You Free, that part of the manipulation of the world army would be that we would see, remember 1994, I wrote this, would be NATO and NATO countries operating more and more and more outside the North Atlantic arena that they're supposed to have been put together for. We now have them in Afghanistan, of course, we now have them in Libya. And they're operating as a de facto world army, and this is the stepping stones to the fully fledged world army that you were talking about.
Why hasn't mainstream radio and TV picked up on this then?
Well, I worked in the mainstream media for years. Some of the most uninformed people I've ever met in my life are journalists in the mainstream and politicians. Extraordinary. They're repeaters. They just repeat what people tell them. You know, you'll see a story start like a war, and maybe for 24 hours they'll say, oh, so and so, the government claims this is happening, but then the claims is gone, and suddenly what the government says is real. I have to laugh, really. I shake my head. I'm looking at the coverage of Libya and other such things like Saddam Hussein, and I hear mainstream journalists say the Libyan regime says this, but we have no independent verification. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's journalism, nice one. And then they'll say, oh, the government says this, the US says this, France says this. No, but we don't have independent verification. They're just repeaters. They don't know what's going on because they've not done the research. I've been researching for 21 years full time. I've been to 55 countries doing it and talking about it. That's the level of research that is necessary to uncover what is really going on, and of course to uncover something that doesn't want to be uncovered. You can't do that being sent out on this story today and then on that story tomorrow. You have to focus on this subject full time. They don't do it, they have no idea. But when you go up the pyramid structure to the peak of the pyramid of these media organizations, the people that control them sure as heck knows what's going on, and they've created a structure within the media, radio, television, newspapers, where what is really going on never gets to the people. That's why it's through internet sources and other sources that people like me have to do it.
And where can people find out more about your work, David?
DavidIcke.com. That's the best place to start. There's just a fantastic number of videos on different subjects and information. There's a headlines page which is updated every day to put current events in a, shall we say, a different perspective of what they really mean. And it's like everything else that I've been involved in. It's just exploding. I mean, we had the website go down about a month ago because it couldn't cope with the traffic, and we've had to update it and upgrade it. And that's a wonderful thing, because 20 years ago, around that period, 1991, 92, 93, if I was doing a public event in a phone box, there'd have been room to walk around. Now, thousands come. There is an awakening. It's a fantastic time to be alive.
Thank you so much for joining us, David.
Kevin, thank you very much.
To find out more information on today's guest, visit my website, themoreshow.co.uk, and look up David under past guests. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter to find out the latest updates on the coming shows. So until next time, thanks for watching.
Richard Freeman, one of Britain's few professional cryptozoologists, presents Dragons More Than a Myth. David Icke, one of the world's most controversial speakers, presents his latest book, Human Race, Get Off Your Knees, and the DVD set, The Lion Sleeps No More, an 8-hour presentation at London's Brixton Academy. All these and other titles are available at themoreshow.co.uk/shop.
If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The More Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.